I want to introduce not only one of my dear personal friends, but one of our very finest academic scholars in creation science. I want to make sure that I do not overstate his credentials, so I'm going to read them. It looks like my cell phone went blank.
You were.
Now, here we are. He could give them himself. This young man has been to school. Dr. Jerry Bergman has taught biology, biochemistry, anatomy, and genetics, as well as psychology and other courses at Bowling Green State University, the University of Toledo, the University of Toledo Medical College, and other colleges. He has 9 degrees, including a doctorate from Wayne State University in Detroit, Michigan, and over 1,000 college credit hours, equivalent to earning 20 master's degrees. His over 1,000 publications are in both scholarly and popular science journals. Dr. Bergman's work has been translated into 13 languages, including French, German, Italian, Spanish, Danish, Polish, Czech, Chinese, and Swedish. English?
Yes, we've been working on that as well.
His books and chapters he has written for others' books are in 1,500 college libraries in 27 countries. So far, over 80,000 copies of the 40 books and monographs he has authored or co-authored are still in print, and that is very rare. He's spoken over 2,000 times to college, university, and church groups in America, Canada, Europe, and Africa. I've known Dr. Bergman for a number of years. I requested that due to the fact that Glen Rose is the scientific battleground of the nation, and it has been officially termed that because of the human and dinosaur footprints, and due to the fact of the overwhelming global influence of Charles Darwin, he authored a special book on the Darwin Effect. And I asked him to lecture, and he said it'll take 2 lectures to cover it all. He's going to lecture this morning on the Darwin Effect, Lecture 1, this afternoon at 2 o'clock, the Darwin Effect, Lecture 2.
Okay, the Darwin Effect. And I'll say something which I hope is controversial to begin. I've concluded that the most evil man that ever lived was not Adolf Hitler, was not Stalin, was not Mao, but the most evil man that ever lived was Charles Darwin. Now, I hope you're saying, yeah, right, I don't believe that at all. The motivation of saying this is that you get into my books and other books, and basically, indeed, is that true? In fact, Hitler was kind of a minor player in the world of evil compared to Charles Darwin. Now, I'm not saying Charles Darwin personally went out and did anything evil. In fact, he was a good family man. He raised his kids. He never bothered to work, didn't need to. He married a wealthy woman. That always helps. And so he was able to spend a lot of his time raising his kids, and he was a domineering but a good husband. And therefore, he personally, his ideas are what I'm saying, had enormous adverse effect on society. And I got into this like 30 years ago, and the more I read, the more stronger is the case that indeed his evil has extended far beyond what I even thought it was a few years ago. Get this to work. These are the 2 books that I'm featuring. Actually, there's another one back there which I'm featuring. I've written 8 books that cover the evils which Darwinism has produced. And the Darwin Effect is available at the museum here. This here is available at the museum, and this here I brought along with me. So, and I'm selling them for my cost, which is $12 a piece or 2 for $20. I never wanted to be a book salesman. I did door-to-door sales for a while, and I hated it. But near where I live, there were 6 bookstores within, 10 years ago. Now there are none. And so they're just people are not buying books. They're spending their time on the internet. And when you teach college, you notice that invariably they have their phones. And I had one student during biochemistry, of all courses, she spent a huge amount of time texting on the internet or wherever to their friends. And I was amazed that her fingers would move as fast as they could and press those small keys. And I usually can't get one key. I usually get two or three. And I was amazed. And I looked at her and I just wondered of how they just moved like an insect bouncing around, sending out messages to her friends and so on. I finally confronted her and said, how can you learn biochemistry when you're spending so much time on your texting? And she said, well, I'm struggling. And yeah, she was. But maybe if she spent less time on her phone, she might have done better in biochemistry. It was required for her degree that she was working on. Nazism is probably the best example. And this is a quote from Childers, who is a leading scholar on the area that we're talking about of Nazi Germany. He said the Greater German Empire was to be a racially pure empire. Germany was the last best racial hope of mankind. And I just read a book recently, on the way here, by the way, that documents indeed that the whole core of World War II, as well as the Holocaust, was racism based on Darwinism. So it's apparent to me, although it's hard to rewrite history, but it's apparent to me that if Darwinian idea never got out there, if Hitler never learned of this, and we know when he learned of it, when he was in prison for the coup that he attempted and failed, he was given I think a 6-month sentence, actually 5 years, and he ended up serving only 6 months. But during that time, he read a book on racism, and that is when he, among other experiences, he concluded that an empire to be successful has got to maintain the purity of the race. And he concluded that the German race, and of course German isn't a race, it's an ethnic group, it's a country, but he concluded the German race was basically degenerating because of intermarriage primarily with Jews. And not just Jews, but also Slavics. Poles he didn't like, Russians, Ukrainians, Czechs. It's a whole list of people that probably most of you would end up in the camps if you were in Nazi Germany. He had a hard time with interracial marriage, and so a major focus of the Holocaust was that was the final solution to the problem of interracial marriage.